From Nashville, Tennessee, Music City, USA, and the home of hot chicken, it's the Rick Altizer Show. Sit back, buckle up. Rick will talk with the movers, shakers, and creators who put Christ in Christian entertainment. He's a man who's clear so the world can hear. Here's Rick Altizer.
This is the Rick Altizer Show, listening audience out there. My name is Paul Aldrich. I'm filling in for Rick Altizer today. And my guest on the show is Rick Altizer.
Thanks, Paul, for having me on my show.
Well, you're welcome, or I'm welcome. I don't know who's welcome, but I'm just glad to be here with you, Rick. So we thought we'd switch things up a little bit today because normally Rick is doing all the interview stuff, but he's got a movie coming out. Rick is a filmmaker, a musician, an all-around great guy. We've known each other for decades here.
Yes.
And but filmmaking is kind of the primary thing of this season. He's got a new Chonda Pierce movie coming out called Chonda Pierce Unashamed.
Yes.
So what's the deal with that?
Unchained, unrestrained, and unashamed. Yes, this is our. Thanks, Paul, for doing this. I really appreciate you. I mean, it's weird talking about. It's my show, right? So I usually interview other people, but I want people to know about the movie and all that. And so, how do I do that? Well, in the past, I've just talked by myself, but it's nice to have someone to talk to.
I know you've been lonely, Rick, so I thought I'd come over and help you through this time.
And you have done this before. You've been on the show and actually interviewed me. You've been on a couple times, or 3-4 times, and we'll be on again. I'm interviewing you again later next month.
Yeah.
But the new movie, it's our third movie with Chonda, and for those who don't know, we made 2 movies. The first movie was Laughing in the Dark, where we kind of just, it was going to be just a movie about her and her life and on the road, and it turned out she was estranged from her daughter. Her husband was dealing with alcoholism. And when we started making the movie, they were separated. She was trying to do the tough love thing with her husband.
That's right.
And then they got back together, and we were tracing all that in the movie, and then he died. He literally drank himself to death.
And you're in the middle of making the movie.
Yes, and that was the first movie, which was something that we just never thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
And that was Laughing in the Dark. So what turned in a movie about, hey, just the life of Chonda Pierce, this comedian on the road, turned into how do you navigate your life as a Christian when everything blows up.
Right.
And that actually took 2 movies to do because it was so there's so much there. The second movie was called Enough, and we examined, after the aftermath of losing her husband, where she sat with that.
Right.
I never felt like I was enough of a mom. I was never enough for my dad. I was never enough for my husband to stop drinking for me. Why wouldn't he stop drinking,
Yes.
And so we really examined that. And, I mean, it took 2 movies to really get through and process what that was going on. And so, both of those movies were very successful. They were Fathom events. The second movie, Chonda Pierce, is in the top 10 of all time of all Fathom events.
And Fathom events are essentially special events that happen in theaters across the country on one particular night or a series of nights.
Yes, that's right.
Right.
And so, of course, since we had, one of their most successful Fathom events of all time, they're knocking on the door. We want another Chonda movie.
Yeah.
We want another Chonda movie. And Chonda and I kind of looked at each other, and it's like, we don't want to go there. We've made 2 movies about what she went through, and we don't want to do that again.
Well, and going back in time a little bit, I mean, I back in the day, I toured with Chonda when she was first there with Mark Lowry. We were all on a tour bus together, and so much of that back then was her tragic stories, things that happened with her family, with her parents, all these things. So your movies were kind of built on this testimony of tragedy and triumph already. So she's lived through some seasons of this kind of thing. So you guys were ready for a change of pace here.
Yes. She lost both of her sisters when she was young. I mean, it was just the story goes on and on.
Yeah.
A very rough relationship with her dad, who was a pastor. It was just very strange,
Right.
And so that was kind of like has been the story of her life.
Yes.
Which so many of her audience relates to because she is them.
Yeah.
She's up there talking about how she's lonely, how she can't find a guy. and how her husband was an addict and lost her husband due to addiction and is estranged from a child. And so many people in the audience are relating to her. And then she makes you laugh.
Right.
And so
struggles with the church, single mom, all those things. It's a lot of touches there.
Yeah. And it's beautiful in that she can create the humor and the laugh, and then she brings it home, and then they relate so much to her.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so what we wanted to do with this movie was not go, about Chonda's pain. She just didn't want to.
Yeah.
Because I want you to think about doing just the worst tragedy of your life that you could possibly imagine, just the worst part of your life, and putting it on a big screen.
Yeah.
And then it being in, almost 1,000 theaters, and 100,000 people are watching this.
Right.
And then it's a DVD, and then it's on Netflix. It just goes on and on.
Yeah, and you're talking about it, you're promoting it, your interviews are all about it. It's part of your shows anyway, so it can be years of these stories.
It was traumatic.
You live in that space. Yeah.
Doing the marketing for Laughing in the Dark, she had just lost her husband. And every day she's doing like 4 or 5 interviews a day talking about losing her husband. It was traumatic for her. It was emotionally traumatic.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to put her through that again anyway. I didn't want to go there. So we left all that behind, and we were examining a topic. So we have her doing her comedy. Mm-hmm. And this is actually it's interesting, but through all this, she's growing, getting healthier, but this is the funniest she's ever been. This is the funniest Chonda movie that's ever been made, in my opinion. And I've been with her now for almost a dozen years, and
wow, that's right.
I'm very, very familiar with all of her DVD products, all of her video products, of course the movies, because I made them, so I'm very.
Right.
This is the funniest she's ever been. It's very, very funny. And then we talk about a topic, and the topic is, we start the movie out with this, where she says, he was never ashamed of me. In the pit of my sin, he died for me. He who knew no sin died for me. I could never be ashamed of the gospel. That's how we start the movie.
Right. Wow.
So we examine that topic. We're in a culture where our Christian faith is getting, on the chopping block in a lot of cases. Mm-hmm. We're getting, we're at risk by believing God, the Bible is true, and what the Bible says is true. We're becoming equated with people who are haters by saying we believe the Bible is true. And so we kind of examine that. She sings a song at the end of the movie, I'm unashamed of the gospel. And so in that we have some guests. So Chonda is interviewing people. Now now the tables are turned.
Wait a minute, I thought this was my gig.
Right.
Yeah, she's taken over all the territory.
Yeah, so she's interviewing. So instead of it being about her, me interviewing her, she's interviewing. So we've got Michael Tate from the Newsboys, and he's talking about making a stand for Christ. How does he do that?
Oh, okay.
Governor Huckabee. She's sitting in Governor Huckabee's chair on his show, and he's in the guest chair, and she interviews him.
I've been on that chair, so now I know what's
you've
going
been on that
here.
show. I know. I saw that.
I carried Governor Mike right on my back the whole time. No, he's fantastic.
Yeah, that was. And so she's interviewing him about when you were a governor and the pressures to be a Christian. How did you navigate that?
Right.
He's got some really interesting things to say, and then. I don't know if you're familiar with the Benham brothers. They're these two great brothers.
Yeah.
Funny, really funny.
Absolutely.
But they had a show on HGTV. And you hang out with them for 10 minutes or 5 minutes, you know exactly why they got a show. They're hilarious.
They were a deal. The momentum was going their way big time.
They were set up to be the big thing. They were going to be the next big thing. And a group had saw that they had said, we believe the Bible defines marriage. And so we should just stick with that definition. That the Bible defines it. Let's just stay with that. And because of that stand, and also their pro-life stand, HGTV started getting all these pressure from groups. You got to cancel the show. You got to cancel the show. These guys are haters. These guys, believe in the Bible, and and all this pressure.
Right.
And so HGTV knew about where their stand was and what they believed when they signed him.
Right.
They knew. I mean, and look at their biggest shows, Duck Dynasty. Well, I don't think that was HGTV. That was A&E. But you had Duck Dynasty. You've got the Duggar family. They're strong Christians. You've got House Hunters with the Gaines, Chip and Joanna. And that's like the biggest show,
Yeah.
And so you have all these strong Christians who believe the same things.
Right.
Believe all the same stuff. And their shows are, very successful.
Yeah.
But because of the pressure, what they call the thought mafia, they canceled their show.
Yeah.
And so they talk about that, and there's some fun interaction.
Yeah.
Danny Goki, who's on American Idol.
Sure.
I don't know if you remember Danny.
Yeah.
He was one of the top. He lost to, who's the guy with Queen? Adam Lambert.
Oh, is that
Adam
right?
Lambert beat him out, yeah.
Oh, gosh.
And now he's singing with Queen. But Danny lost his wife just months before he did the audition for American Idol.
Oh, wow.
And so that's interesting point of communication there, Danny. And then we've got Jeff Allen, a comedian who talks about, his transition from being in clubs to as a alcoholic. So again, there's that other connection with Shonda's husband, and so with that, we created a movie that I think Shonda's fans are going to love it.
Good.
But that's in theaters for those who are interested.
Oh, yes. Is it coming up soon?
Yes, it's as a matter of fact, it's coming up next week in theaters, May 7th, Tuesday, and May 9th, Thursday. That's next Tuesday, next Thursday.
Yeah.
At 7 p.m., it's going to be in pretty much most theaters in Nashville, pretty much if they don't sell out. A lot of them, I think Nashville sold out last time. So, but you can get more information by going to shondamovie.com.
All right.
And that's Shonda. It's like Honda with a C.
Oh,
Honda with a C.
Honda with a C.
Honda with
Okay.
a C.
Yeah.
But you are listening to The Rick Altizer Show. And my guest today is Paul Aldrich, and he's interviewing me about about my movie. So
And come back, because it's going to get really gritty, because I know all the dirt on Rick Altizer people. So don't hang up on us.
Don't turn that dial. Don't change that dial. So anyway, then we have a little with the Fathom events. You have an after show. You have a little segment that comes after the movie,
right?
And somebody special is a part of that.
Oh, really? Who might that be?
I don't know, Paul. Why don't you tell me?
Well, I am one part of a 6-person panel that will be seen after the show. So if you're buying a ticket to see me, just save your money, okay? My face will flash through the big screen. But we had a great time with some good friends. Karen Williams, Brian White were our longtime friends. They were part of it. Jeff Allen, who you just mentioned, Bone Hampton. I'm leaving somebody out.
Shanita Morris.
Shanita, there we go.
Shanita Morris.
Yeah, Shanita, yeah. And so anyway, it was a lot of fun. We just kind of batted around a few questions, and so we get to wrap up the movie. And I can't wait to see me all edited down, and hopefully they made me look beautiful.
Yes. it has been color corrected. So we had a sign above you that was nailed to the wall, so we couldn't pull it off. I was trying to pull up. It's a big Corona sign, because it was in a restaurant.
That's
and I had to cover the sign. And so, we spent so much time photoshopping out that sign. It's like, man, we should have just pulled it off the wall and nailed it back. It would have been much easier just to take it down. Anyway. But we did. You won't see that Corona
sign. Okay, because,
sign.
hey, I got to work in this town, buddy.
No, you won't see it. We took it off, man.
Oh, my. Well, let's go back in time a little bit for you. Now, I knew you, girl. We lived in Los Angeles at the same time for many, many years, and you were primarily a music person.
Yes.
And now you're Mr. Filmmaker. Tell a little bit about the transition, maybe how that came about. Compare and contrast the worlds for me.
Yeah, I was music was always what I wanted to do. It was my dream. It was and was in Los Angeles. I was a staff writer for Warner Chapel there, and got picked up by Bob Dylan's manager, and I was supposed to be, a big whatever. And that never happened, but it was definitely something I was my dream. Came out to Nashville, and
doing music at this point.
Still doing music,
right.
and actually did a very successful children's project called Worship Jams, which we were the number one selling worship record in America. We were outselling Chris Tomlin, but no one ever heard of us. But if you watched SpongeBob on Nickelodeon, you saw all our commercials, so you knew who we were.
Oh, that's great.
But as we started noticing, Kent Songer is my business partner, and he kind of, our deal has always been I make the products and he sells the products. He figures out a way to get them, so it's been a great relationship because he's able to do the business and the contracts and all that stuff. And,
right.
And we began to notice that it began to get tougher and tougher to make a living with music.
Right. And that's not just, across the board, you are entering an era not just because of lack of talent or whatever, but a lot of great writers, players, everything. Once the download streaming world started taking over, you just don't sell stuff like you used to sell stuff. No, and
it changed. Yeah, it completely
and so the dynamic
changed.
Changes.
I had Tim Menzies on, a songwriter, and he was saying, they would tell him that his retirement is his catalog. Well, now when you get a stream on, someone plays your song on Pandora, you get 0.00004 cents a play. It's. Right. I've heard of people who've had the guy who wrote All By Myself, Eric Carmen, said he got 1 million plays on Pandora and he made like $40 for 1 million plays.
Right.
So it's amazing how little you get paid now, and so all of these, the way that you had income you made with sales, album sales. It's all gone.
Yes, absolutely.
Before you would go on tour, a band would go on tour to promote their album, to promote album sales. Now the album promotes the tour.
Right.
And if you notice how ticket sales have gone like way, way, way out of the roof, $150 a ticket kind of thing, because that's the only way they make money.
Right.
Is so they have to push that ticket as high as they possibly can. Because they are not making money on their sales, on their DVD sales.
Believe me, I know.
I think there's 4 platinum albums a year now, something like that. Maybe 4 million-selling albums.
Yeah, so exactly. Of people who are actually buying physical product or paying for downloadable product.
So it's just a different paradigm. And so I saw it coming. We kind of were at the very tail end of where you could sell children's products at full retail. We had them in Walmart at full retail, 2008, 2009, and then it kind of went away.
Right.
And so I guess about 8 years ago, I said to my business partner, we need to get out of music. We got to go into film. So we started doing work with PureFlix, Christian movie company. We started doing consulting for them. We put together the marketing team for a movie you might have heard called God's Not Dead. We kind of put that together and we're kind of helped them promote that well. And then started working with Chonda, and then we made our first movie. So we kind of switched over from – it was really more out of necessity. I never wanted to be a filmmaker. I never thought – and this story is, you can go on my website, rickaltizer.com, or you can check out my podcast anywhere you hear podcasts, The Rick Altizer Show, and you can hear me tell this story of how that transition all happened. But, we knew we needed to get out of music, and the film industry is not too far behind.
Right. Yeah. It's a similar curve, isn't it?
It's getting tougher to make a living doing film. It's getting harder. So that's why it is important to go out and buy those tickets. If there's a movie you believe in, like Unplanned, or this, if you want to support this Shonda movie or whatever Christian movie is out there that you're interested in, it's important you get out there and buy that ticket.
Absolutely.
So that they can keep making them.
Yeah.
Because if people don't buy tickets, I'm just telling you, it's so expensive to promote it and make it.
Right.
They're not going to keep making them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's kind of how the transition switched over, and then kind of gives us kind of long-winded answer. But you said, what are some of the similarities? And I noticed, I've done a lot of music producing, and I noticed filmmaking and directing are the same skill set. That's why you see a lot of guys transition from music and film. Steve Taylor, for instance, is one who's been on the show. where he was a recording artist, and he was a very successful producer. Then he went over to film, and now he teaches at Lipscomb. He's making movies. And so it's a very similar skill set, working with people, getting the story together, trying to get your album to sound focused and cohesive, and working with egos and all that stuff. Filmmaking, same thing. Working with people, getting the best performance out of them. Dealing with their egos and trying not to squash somebody's ego and telling a story.
The people side, the technical side. And just for anybody that's tuning in, this is Paul Aldrich. I am interviewing Rick Altizer on The Rick Altizer Show, so you are not losing your minds out there. We've been longtime friends, and we're talking about the new Chonda Pierce movie that's coming out May 7th and 9th. And it's a Fathom event. Go to shondamovie.com to get tickets for that beautiful thing, or to get information and on how you can get tickets there. But the process, because when you transitioned to the first Chonda movie, I was stunned. If you folks have not seen it, you've got to. It was a labor so intensive, I can't even imagine, because we're used to sort of going in and taking music and cutting little bits of this out, this instrument and that instrument, and putting them all together. But you did this with video, in taking like one joke, and you would do it from four or five different locations, and just there would be a setup and then a pause from another location and then a punchline. I've never seen anything like it in the comedy world ever. And so for you to jump in with both feet into the deep end, I don't know what you were thinking, man. I mean, you pulled it off, but I would have had to just jump in a cave for about a year after that.
That was out of necessity. When we started this movie, I was doing it. I was filming everything myself.
Right.
I don't know what I'm doing. I had the cameras on autofocus. Yeah. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. And so I had one camera. And so I would put in a good zoom lens. And so I would put the camera in the back of the auditorium with my one good zoom lens.
Oh, my God.
But I could get audio. I could do audio. Because coming from a music career, I knew how to do audio. So I would get the audio off the board. So I'd get a good, clean audio mix. But I would film just her with just one static camera.
Oh, my gosh.
And so in order for me to... So I'd have 5-6 shows that way. But usually when you do a comedy show, you got like 5 or 6 cameras, 7
every
cameras.
show, right? So you can switch long shot, close up shot, this and that, a jib camera, all these things.
And you want to find, like in a joke, sometimes there'd be long pauses that might work in a live setting, but for a TV or a movie show, you want to tighten it up a bit. And so what you would do is you would take, the camera that's, kind of on her face, and now I'm going to cut something out. So I go to somebody laughing, or I go to another camera, and I make it look seamless by going to different cameras. Well, I didn't have that.
Yes.
So I had to go to a different show.
Yes. Oh,
that's the only way I could do it. But I found in doing that, I was able to tighten up her jokes. And I was able to use the best piece from each show.
Right.
So, she said the setup line really good here, and this was great here. Her look at this one is really nice as she's waiting for the laugh.
Yeah.
But then the punchline was amazing from this show. So I cut them all together out of necessity. That's the only way I could do it. And what it made it look like was it gave it the feel like she's all over the place.
Right.
She's all over the world, and it made it look bigger than it really was.
It was incredible. The energy of doing it that way. No, I mean, I could see keeping my sanity doing it for a 3-minute YouTube clip, but a long form video done that way, it was just crazy. It was marvelous. You really did a great job. And you've received awards and stuff for your work. I'm going to brag on my friend here a little bit. That was the winner of Best Documentary, Park City International Film Festival. So you've got a lot of nominations and things here for a first-time filmmaker. That's not bad coming out of the gate, my friend. Congrats.
Yeah, Enough was nominated. Laughing in the Dark won. There's a film festival that's this weekend. The Christian International Film and Music Festival in Orlando.
Right.
And for the Russ Taff movie, I'm up for Best Director.
Right. So look at this. For I Still Believe with Russ Taff.
Yeah.
Which again was an incredibly crafted thing that you did a little bit on the fly, catching, filming some of your own stuff and getting found stuff. So it was fantastic. But we got Chonda Pierce, Unashamed, coming out here soon, May 7th and 9th. Correct?
Yep.
Get info at Chonda movie.com. It's going to be Chonda at her funniest, along with some interviews and some interaction with some other folks, which will be a lot of fun. Yours truly, Paul Aldrich, will be part of the panel at the end, along with Jeff Allen and some folks. Anything else you want to say about the movie as we head out here?
No, just it was a joy making it, and I really think her fans are going to really enjoy this. This is going to be a fun one. So this and it's Mother's Day week, so it's a great thing to bring a mom or a mom to be, or your mom, or someone else's mom. Grab a van load full of moms.
Get the ladies together, get the van going, and make it happen.
Paul, thanks for doing this.
Rick,
thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you on your show. Thank you.
If there's a show you've missed, you can go to my website, rickaltizer.com, and catch up. Or you can listen to my podcast in iTunes or wherever you hear your podcasts. Just search for The Rick Altizer Show. Altizer is spelled Altizer. I want to thank you for listening. Hey, would you tell a friend about this show and share the love? Be sure to check us out again next week as we discuss how we communicate the gospel through media to our culture. Let's be clear so the world can hear. I'll talk to you next week. Thanks for listening.